Hey everyone, welcome to the introduction of Fostering Growth. I'm your host, Laura. My last name is Corona, but yes, welcome. I wanted to create a podcast to be able to share different, type of ideas, tips, advice, trying to kind of have that, growth and development within myself while also being able to share it with others so that people wouldn't feel like they are going through it themselves or by themselves. Basically, sometimes I feel alone. I feel like I, can't with everything that I have on my plate, work, school, being a mom, family wise, like all these different things. Like I'm the caretaker in my family, but I've never really taken care of myself. And it's something that I'm trying to learn. And I also want to be able, to share that and go around, with positive attitude, positive vibes for people and to be like, all right, I can do it too. Basically, I kind of want to, seek self improvement and again, share it with others. It's kind of like a journey to better myself. But I also have to continue the practice of the self love, and I like to help people. I always try to help people. Sometimes it could be a little difficult because, again, I don't help myself. So, how am I able to help others? When I'm not okay, I just kind of block people out. And then it kind of gives me that like guilt of, oh man, I should be helping, or I should try this, I should try that. But I know that I have to help myself first. And coming to the realization of that made me want to, start this podcast. A couple of things that I want to be able to target are the different ways of taking care of, physical health, mental health, emotional health, even spiritual health. I've been doing some meditation for quite some time now. Some days are better than others, but it's still a learning process for myself. And I want to be able to share that with people so that maybe they can try it out. Maybe they can see, oh, well, maybe this works for me or maybe it doesn't. Everybody is different. Everybody is going through it differently. And we have to accept the fact that some things might work for others and not for ourselves and vice versa. You just kind of gonna get out there and find what works best for you. So, the name of this podcast is Fostering Growth, and I wanted to give a little bit of background on that. Growing up, I did grow up in foster care, and I feel like a lot of the things that go on with me now were kind of shaped by that childhood of, being separate from my family, and I guess the feeling of isolation kind of hit me when I was young. And I've been growing up with that. And it's, again, shaped me into the person I am today, which I am really proud of who I am today. But I know that I have a lot to work on and so much growth in my person, in, being a mom, in, being a great friend, in, just so many different things. Again, growing up, I did have, kind of that family foundation through friends. I do have friends that I know since I was in third grade that I still have, as best friends. And I feel like we've had that connection because they knew what I went through since I was young and they've seen me grow and go through everything, and they still basically are there and like me as a person. So I think I'm doing a pretty good job. But I wanted to be able to also be kind of like a role model to foster kids. I want this podcast to also kind of, spread its wings and help those in need in foster care with, again, tips and advice of self-improvement and development, just like I'm doing the research. And my little 8-year-old self would have loved it if I had, a role model to look up to and be like, oh my God, I'm going through all of this, but this is what my future looks like. If you put in the hard work and dedication and really focus on wanting, the best for yourself and for your family, you can get there. And a lot of people, when I share my story, of like, hey, I used to be in foster and, now I'm here. And people are like, wow, like really? Like if you would have told me that from, what your personality is, I would have never guessed like, oh, you had this type of childhood. And looks can be deceiving. Like a lot of people don't know what I've gone through and how, they ask me like, oh my God, how do you do it? And how do you, are so positive and bubbly and strong? And it's like, in reality, like if you really, really know me, like, that I struggle with it a lot. But I still like to share positivity and try to, be this bubbly person, always smiling, always joking, always laughing, even after joking about, my bad luck and things like that. It's just a lot of different topics that I'll be able to share, a couple of anecdotes, of my life. But going back to, the title of the podcast, Fostering Growth, I want to be able to reach, not just to foster youth, but everyone in general. But just have those balancings of, I'm here to provide any type of help that I can, based on research, based on, kind of like a foster helpline in a sense. I am trying my best, to kind of reach my old social workers, trying to get information through there. I have my brothers who one of them is still kind of in, a foster program. Well, an extended foster care thing because he's already 19. But there's a lot of different options that some kids don't know about. And I don't want to say that it's because, their workers don't necessarily tell them that. But sometimes, some kids don't know how to ask if either there's more help out there for them or, again, some workers might just be like, hey, you're turning 18, you're good to go, you're free to the world. And when kids spend time in foster care, of course they want to be like, oh my God, I'm finally 18, I'm out of here, let's go world. And sometimes it doesn't happen like that, So again, this is a project that will be evolving, hopefully in the best way ever, of being able to give that help and resources to foster kids, that really need it. Again, putting my email out there, hopefully people can write, and be like asking questions, maybe, for any, help. I don't know. Again, something that I can really make a change. The growth part of it, like I mentioned, is so you can grow within yourself. So I can grow within myself, and so everyone else can grow. There's always room for improvement. Of course you can be confident and tell yourself, oh, I got this. You wake up with a positive attitude. I honestly am jealous of all those people that wake up and are like, all right, let's get this day going, because I have a really hard time getting up and motivating myself. But when the day and the time comes, I'm actually really motivated. And again, one of the first steps is, starting this podcast because I want to be able to help people like that. So I just wanted to give a little backstory of myself. I grew up in foster care for quite a while. It was a really difficult time because, again, I felt alone. I had to learn to self-soothe. I had to learn, to kind of bottle things up and not show the world what I was going through because, at 8 years old, what are you supposed to do? You're still a kid, but you have to grow up now. You have to take care of your two younger brothers. What's best for them, what's best for you. And it was just life-changing. It really was. A lot of people look at me and they're like, you're very childish, or like, you like kid stuff. And it's like, I think part of it is because I didn't really have a childhood. I didn't really enjoy it in that, kids with how they, either stay with, their parents and grow up. And I'm not saying that, I could have had it better or worse. I'm just saying that my experience was a lot different, and it clearly made me who I am now, including my personality of being bubbly and positive, because that's what I had to do to survive. I had to be positive, one way or the other. And again, I had a lot of support from friends. A lot of my friends didn't even know I was in foster. There was times when they'd be like, oh, hey, we're going to have a sleepover. And I wasn't allowed to go because when you're in foster, you're not allowed to spend the night anywhere. You're not really even allowed to, go to some places. Every foster home is different, but from my experience, there was, some days that I couldn't really hang out with my friends or go to the park after school, or, I had to just go to school, come back home, and, be home. And there's just so many different things that I guess, I went through in foster that made me open my eyes to the real world and to actually see how the world was so much different than what I thought, growing up, taking care of my brothers had made me get that like mother bond with them of I was more of a mother than a sister to them. And I was okay with it, in the beginning. Now that one's 19 and the other one's 23, sometimes they still look at me like their mom. And I'm like, I'm your sister. I know I took care of you when we were younger. I know that I'm always going to be here and I'll give you guys my best advice. And, we're not always on the same page, but it really did take a lot for me to step up and become that mom figure for them and tell them that I was going to take care of them and that nothing was going to happen to them, being in foster. Because I was 8. My middle brother was, I think, about like 5. And the youngest was a baby. Like, he was literally either months or like a year old. And it kind of really sucked for the youngest one because he basically grew up in foster care his whole life. He, again, is 19 now, and he just got into like extended foster care, but that's all he's known his whole life is just foster care. And me going to visit, and, our mom times going to visit as well, our grandmother as well. And, it, again, with foster, it just, everybody has a different story. This motivated me to be able to produce the podcast and be like, I want to help. I want to not just help people in per se, but I want to be able to help in that foster aspect. Because again, as a young little girl, I wish I had somebody kind of giving me this advice or telling me how, a lot of my choices were going to send me one way or the other. So with that said, I grew up in foster for about 4 to 5 years. And then I was placed with my grandmother. And then from there, like my story goes, I got emancipated at 16 and I started working at 16. But that whole time I was still basically like, visiting my brothers and, trying to take care of them. And I would talk to their foster moms. And there was times that their foster moms would be like, oh, your little brother's acting out. Can you talk to him? And even then, like, that's why I was like a mother to them. I'd be like, what's going on? You're supposed to be being good. And again, listen to them and all these, different little things that I had to kind of help my brothers through as well. Most of my family members have been in foster care. We've all had our different experiences, sadly, some worse than others. But that's because foster homes are a lot different. My brothers were placed on one home. I was placed in another home. I believe that I was in 3 different homes during my time because as, being the older sibling, I was placed by myself. And then being a girl, some foster homes are like girls only, boys only, and rarely do they ever get, families together. For example, I asked them if I could be in a foster home with my brothers, like keeping all three of us together. And there was just no way in hell that was going to happen. Even though they said they would try, but no foster parent would want to accept three kids. So, the separation happened, and I think it was really tough on my brothers because after I got emancipated and rewind. So before I got emancipated, around the age of 12, 13, I moved with my grandmother. She finally was able to take care of us, and so my little brothers were placed there as well. But with a lot of things going on, and again, me being 13 going on 14, I was a teenager who was always inside her room, locked up, because I didn't really like to go outside, and I'd be on my computer. My brothers were taken away from the house. My grandmother couldn't really take care of them, and I felt a lot of guilt in that because I feel like I could have done more and helped her out more with them. But again, I'm 13, 14, a teenager, preteen, teenager now, whatever you want to call it. I was still, I didn't want to really take care of my brothers. Like, why would I want to take care of kids? I am just a kid. Again, going into foster, I had to take care of them. So once we were with my grandma, I was like, grandma, you take care of them. You tell them what's right and wrong. But it was always like, Laura, your brothers. So I would have to be like, hey, this, hey, that. And I would get in a lot of fights with them too. And they'd be like, oh my God, you're so bossy and this and that. And it's like, it's not my fault you guys aren't listening. And I'm the boss of you because everybody comes to me expecting me to control you guys. But, there were times where my brothers did listen to me. And there were times that they didn't. And again, they were taken to foster care again. But I did not leave them. Like, it kind of guilted myself of like, oh, I could have done more. I could have helped out more. They shouldn't have left. But they also needed, more help, more special care. They needed that extra attention that my grandmother just wasn't able to give them anyways. So after I got emancipated at 16, I, began working, and little by little, it was school and part-time job. And then I would, visit my brothers. I would take the bus, and some days they would pick me up and take me with them. It was just a roller coaster of some days were good, some days were not so good, some days were really good. But I always missed them. No matter how many times we would get in trouble or fight or argue or whatever, again, their foster parents would call me and be like, they're acting up. I always wanted to be with them. I always told them, don't worry, I'm going to get you out of here. As soon as I turn 18, I'm going to try to get you guys adopted. I always told them that I would never leave them, and I never did, and I still haven't. But again, these are the growing relationships I've had with my brothers of, going through foster and then going through our grandmother. And then when they went back, I know that they felt abandoned. I know that they felt betrayed because, again, I could have helped out more, but I just didn't. And little by little, I began forming a relationship with them, of they saw that I was really trying. I remember when I first got my first car, I, would drive up to go see them, and I would try to take them places, either take them to the movies or take them to the park. On Halloweens, I would try to take them out trick-or-treating around their, the house where they lived in foster care, and a lot of different little things that I tried to do for them. My first job was Chuck E. Cheese, so I would literally, for their birthdays, take them to Chuck E. Cheese and get them a birthday cake and give them, money so that they can play. And a lot of times, I couldn't do so much, but I think that since I was always reaching out and, I didn't always have the answers, but not giving up on them was the best thing that I could have done also for them. Because even now, again, fighting and the arguing and whatever you want to call it, we have our different opinions. We'll get to it. I'm sorry. We'll get to it. Okay. Actually, that's it for this. Again, this is a project that will be evolving, hopefully in the best way ever. It's something that I've been wanting to do for quite a while. And I've talked to many friends about it, and they're like, yes, do it, you can do it. Just put put that foot forward and step into it, and then we'll see, where it goes. And after all those friends kind of were like, just do it. I was like, all right, fine, I'll do it. And again, this is for me to be able to share that you guys are not alone. Everyone is struggling. Everybody is on their own, timeline. But that doesn't mean that we have to struggle on our own or that we have to feel like we're on our own. So I hope that this really, helps people, reaches people in some sort of way. And, it's not about how many people I actually reach out to or, make a difference in. But as long as there's, one person that can kind of feel like, oh, this actually is helping me discover, little things about yourself that you might not know, like knew before. It's the same process for me. Like, I'm learning through this, and I hope that these good habits that I want to form, will stick and will also help you guys, see that, after a cloudy day, there's always a rainbow. There's always, that sign of hope that we can keep going as long as we are determined and strong and, form a connection and have those, resources and that support from either friends and family and, even strangers on the internet. It happens. It happens in so many different ways that I want to be able to help people like that and be able to, to reach out. And actually, that's it for this. As some of you have noticed, I am releasing the introduction and the first episode to the podcast on my birthday. Yes, March 29th is my birthday. I am turning 27 years old. A lot of people don't believe me. A lot of people think I am 21. Yes, thank you. This face is a curse and a blessing. But one of the main reasons why I wanted to drop this on my birthday is because I wanted to begin with a little, personal new year for me, and a little bit more explanation on what like a personal year is, like birthdays are a new year for you. Every year you have your birthday, it never changes, and it kind of gives you that birthdays really give you a chance to look back on the past year and see, what's working for you and what's not working. It's kind of like a way to have those New Year resolutions. Instead of New Year, new me, it's kind of like New Year, better me. It's, a lot of people avoid their birthday, another year of getting older. Oh my God. For example, for me, I'm getting to my 30s. Little by little, it does become more and more real. But I think that birthday should be more of the start of the personal new year. I feel like a lot of people choose to ignore it also, like they want to let it go, like their birthday, they don't really want to celebrate. I know some people do celebrate their birthdays. I've seen it on Instagram so many times. Some people love their birthdays. But others, maybe it's not the same. Nobody's like really throwing you birthday parties, or, there's no piñata and candy, even though there could be, there should be. You are the person that decides what to do on your birthday. So whatever you decide, have a piñata and candy. I don't know. But I think also it's the thought of growing up older, of, somehow some people don't want to grow up. They want to stay young, or some people actually want to grow up and they're like, fuck, I can't wait till I'm, can retire. I'm waiting for retirement, to be honest. But whatever the reason, I think that it really is important because it's a part of our growth. And one of the things, like, for me is that every year for my birthday, I do take time off. I do not work on my birthday. I try not to work on my birthday ever because nobody wants to work on their birthdays. But also I try to do something for myself. For example, my birthday present to myself is getting a new tattoo each year. I've been doing a really good job at that. I've been getting a tattoo for the past 3 years in a row. Every year, it's something different. It's something memorable because it's something that I give to myself, And this year, I kind of wanted to begin it with setting, some goals for myself. And, we have to be realistic with our goals sometimes. You kind of set those 3 achievable goals that you kind of place for the whole year. But if you achieve, them before the year ends, then you kind of just give yourself another achievable goal. For example, one of my goals is, that learning self-care. And obviously that's going to take a long time, not just this whole year, but just doing a routine. Starting a routine and starting to take care of myself is one of the, I want to say it's a realistic goal for myself because I can do it. I have so much time on my hands now that I know that there's no excuse. And, once you achieve those goals, even if you achieve only 1 out of the 3, like it shouldn't be a stressing challenge for you. It should be a growing challenge. Once your next birthday arrives, there's going to be so much to celebrate because, again, you put these small goals, achievable goals, and you were able to achieve them, or at least 1 or 2, or if you achieved all 3 and then you put another 3 and then you achieve those 3, like, damn, you go, Glen Coco. So I began doing some research on birthdays, and having that personal new year. And there's a lot of different blogs out there that have, a couple of paragraphs, just how to start it to, again, I kind of got some of those, achieving the goals from one of the websites. It's the Motivator Minute on a WordPress.com. And it basically states, how birthdays should be a check-in with yourself. And I totally agree with that. You got to check yourself where you are physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, which is some of the different concepts that I would like to, talk about in this podcast. And you should look at your birthdays, as a pampering day as well. I like to try to pamper myself whenever I can, kind of relax, take a mental health day. I don't know, vacation from work like I do again. Is there so many things that you can do for yourself on your birthday, and it's not just like it's another year. You can ask yourself, how do you feel? Do you feel healthy? Do you feel happy? Are you fulfilled in your personal and professional life? And if the answer is yes, you can feel grateful that you're really fortunate and you're in a great place in your life. But if you think to yourself and you're like, no, I don't feel healthy, or I don't feel, happy, and that there's a lot to work on. For example, my situation of I know I can work on myself and I can improve so much. Then you kind of start thinking about the small changes that you can make. and again, set those little goals. And I'm pretty sure that eventually you'll get to a healthier and happier version of yourself, you know? So again, a couple of these things that I would like to change for myself are swapping some, bad habits that I have. I'll talk about that more in detail in my next episode with my lovely friend, Sam, hashtag Samantha. And, I have a lot of little bad habits that I know I can change, but I don't do it. And it's about time that I change them. In no particular order, I did want to share some of the hashtag resolutions for my personal year. Number one, though, again, no particular order, but number one is that self-care routine, because it really is something that I want to do and is important. Drinking less soda and caffeine, because I work graveyard and coffee is life, but I really got to, slow it down. And even with soda, like, there's times that I've stopped drinking soda and I would only have soda on Saturday, like, my day off. Sometimes I would be like, I'll just have a soda. I'll drink more water later on and this and that. And so sometimes I find myself drinking soda again when I know I should stop. And then I stop and I do an actually good job about it. But then it kicks back in, So another thing is like, consuming more water. I do consume water, but I feel like I should, do water and maybe some teas. I started drinking, green tea with pomegranate. I think that's how you say it. And that kind of just give me a boost, instead of getting a coffee, I'll make one of those teas before work. And that, it just is in that healthier aspect of what's better for me, what's going to help me in my body. And another resolution, exercise more. Again, I'm trying to join the gym, and I just know that I'll be able to push myself in that environment than when I get home and I do workouts here at home, but I'm not as dedicated, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what the difference is. Some people can work out at home. I mean, I have my best friend that she works out at home. She goes to the park. She goes hiking. She has all this energy. I wish I had. But I know that she also goes through things, so that's one of her ways of coping with it. And I want that to help me as well, too. Another resolution is kind of ditching one bad habit, at least for this year. I know that I mentioned that one of my small goals is, changing bad habits, but the main goal is ditching one bad habit, at least one. I would like to volunteer with Foster. I am trying to find, the resources and doing my research. Again, I'm trying to reach out to some social workers that I had in the past. And I know that they would be really happy to hear from me. And also, I'm pretty sure that they would have, at least to point me in the right direction. But I would like to volunteer more with Foster. Even traveling. But I do want to travel more. I mean, I haven't really done much. I recently started traveling a little bit, even though it was for family. For example, I went to go visit my cousin Ashley at on the other side, on the East Coast, and I went to New York City, and I went to I passed through Delaware, and I went to that side without pinpointing where she lives. I went to that side, of the country. And, enjoyed, I think I was there for like a week and a half, and I enjoyed a lot of the scenery, a lot of the places that we went to. But it wasn't really again, a vacation traveling. It was more to be there for my cousin Ashley. But I was able to enjoy that, and I was like, I need to do this more. And so resolution is, traveling to at least 2 new places, to have a vacation. But with this pandemic, obviously I still need to be safe and, kind of see what's going on. I will share, though, because I am sharing this, in my website. For my birthday, I did plan a little road trip with my friends. So we're going, on a California coast road trip. It's a 2-day thing. driving up, staying the night, and then driving back down while, visiting a couple of local places around there. So stay tuned for that as well. More meditation. Again, I do meditate. I have meditated. It does help. But with the slippery slope that I've been on, it's kind of been on and off. And I kind of just need to get back on that. Even reading more books. Oh my gosh. I love reading. I really do love reading. When I was younger, I read, all the Divergent books. I read all the Hunger books. I read Harry Potter books. Honestly, I read some of the Harry Potter books. I think one of the things that I still need to do is read all the Harry Potter books to really understand everything, because I know that the movies don't give everything. But I loved reading books, and I want to balance it without having to read all those, just fictional storybooks. But I recently am reading Atomic Habits by James Clear, and just the front of it says, tiny changes, remarkable results, and it's a New York Times bestseller. It has a little tiny description of saying an easy and proven way to build good habits and break bad ones. So again, one of my goals is breaking bad habits. So I have this book to read, and kind of do the research and hopefully be able to change that bad habit. Stretching more often also kind of includes with like the exercising, stretching, yoga kind of thing. And I have so many projects that I like to do. If you ask friends, like, they're like, oh my God, you're so creative. But where's my motivation? Where is me starting something and finishing it? So one of my resolutions is finishing projects, because I have so many projects started. So that's one of the things that, again, these are in no particular order. I am not going to tackle all of these in a year, but just to give you guys different, things of like, oh, if I had a resolution, what would it be? Like, these are mine. Kind of finishing up this little list is family time. I would like to spend more family time. And I say that, for example, like this past year with quarantine, I've hanged out with my brothers, but, holidays were a must do, and then some birthdays. But other than that, like even just, going to the park or even hanging out here at the house, it hasn't really been possible. I know that, even if you have to schedule that family time, it could, you can make it possible. And that's one of the things that I really want to be able to do with my brothers and my son and my mom. One of the more important goals that I want to have is, again, creating that self-care routine for myself, because I've taken care of everyone except myself. And I know that that's not fair. So it's just one of the things that I really want to, be able to target. I took care of my grandmother for about, 5 years or so. And it wouldn't take so much time off my hands, but I was always on the go. It was like, doctor appointments, go see her, the store, she needs food, just to visit. It was always, something. And then again, I'm a single mom. I have a 6-year-old now. He is turning 6. So with school and the pandemic, like there's just so many things that I've always had to juggle. And then recently, in the beginning of the year, my grandmother passed away. It was, medical complications. It wasn't not due to COVID, but it really took a toll on me, and it got me into this depression mode, to be honest, that I just really couldn't get out of. And even now it still feels a little bit rocky, like I'm trying to climb out of the hole, and sometimes I slide down, but I'm climbing out, and that's what's important. It doesn't matter that I fell into a depression, in that, like, I felt like giving up on myself. It matters that I got up and did something about it, and then I want to do something about it, and I'm continuing, on with bettering myself and actually I know that my grandmother wouldn't want me to throw my life away, just because she passed away. It's a cycle of life. Things happen like this all the time. I just, this was one of the ones that impacted me the most because she was my routine. Every other day, or either every day or every other day, I would go see her, talk to her, do stuff for her. And then for all that to just kind of stop. And now, again, I have all this time on my hands. I don't have the excuse of I don't have the time, I don't have the energy. No, because now I do have the time. And if I just sit here at home feeling sorry for myself, it's not going to get me anywhere. It really isn't. So that's one of the things that, is motivating me. As much as it hurts, and I miss her so much, and I will always miss her. And even now, I still have not had closure because there's so much to do with, her last wishes. Again, this pandemic and COVID is just kind of slowing that process down, but I know that I will get there. I know that I will be able, to cope with it and live with it and to come to accept it. I've gone through the stages of grief over and over again, and I think that I'm finally being able to push myself to, again, keep climbing out of that hole that I felt like I was in the beginning of the year. And last but not least, but having alone time is one of the major things also that I'm going to have now. Just being alone in my house and the different things that I can do. Like, for example, this past weekend, I cleaned my bathroom, deep cleaned, and it felt so good. And even though I only did that one thing in the day, it was how I spent my alone time. I have the time to, sit down and watch Netflix, Hulu, whatever, binge. But I want to be able to work in my house as well, make it feel like a home, because sometimes this place doesn't really feel like home. And obviously people should be like, you shouldn't feel like that in your own home. Home is where your safe place is. And some people love their homes and other people are just kind of stressed out about it, like me. So again, just to kind of bring it all together, I hope this podcast will help people, discover themselves and seek that improvement within themselves, just like I am. I'm a work in progress. I think we all are. But what's important is that we give ourselves that time in the day, in the week, in the year, whatever you want to call it, to really look within ourselves and say, this is what I want to change, or this is how I can grow. This podcast is going to be full of surprises and different, segments and different things that I would love to talk about. But I would like to hear from you. What would you like to hear? What kind of important thing would you like to target? Anything between, your physical health, emotional health, spiritual health, whatever it is. Even, if you're in foster care and you would like to reach out, go ahead and email at fostering.growth.pod@gmail.com. That's fostering.growth.pod@gmail.com. And you can follow Instagram. It's fostering.growth.pod. And for Twitter, I couldn't clearly put the Fostering Growth Pod, but I was able to do @foster_growth with 2 H's. So foster_growth with 2 H's at the end. And that's the Twitter. So for now, those are the 3 that I have. Currently working on that Facebook page. But yeah, I would love to hear from you guys what you thought of this introduction. And again, stay tuned because we have the next episode with my lovely friend. And we're going to be, targeting some really good tips and ideas and advice on our next topic. So thanks for listening, and I really hope to hear from you guys. Go click that follow button. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I am really excited about this project. I really am. All right, guys. Bye.